150,000 feet stretching between 50 miles, and then the drop, if it's only 1,000 feet, that's something that just recently hit me as far as the ocean goes. I mean, for the longest time, I was seeing a hump and thinking, okay, this is the water coming between me and the building, say in Chicago from Michigan or whatever. Finding out finally that there is no hump there, as far as drawing a tangent line, and then something our eyesight is parallel to the tangent. All of a sudden, I realized there'll never be a hump. On a ball, everything would fall away from you. And what you're describing is almost metaphysical again. If you're talking about looking out the distance and seeing a hump left to right, it just doesn't work. You can't live on a ball. It's like the things that we see on this earth are because they are representative of a plane, of a linear existence. When water rises to your eye level, that is not something that would happen on a globe. It's just we've been conditioned to think that it is. And so we kind of pick, okay, well, the water's rising to my eye level because that's how. No, on a globe, water would fall away from your feet. It would never rise to your eye level. What rises to your eye level is when you live on a plane, in my opinion.
Right. Well, and especially when you start gaining an altitude and that horizon line continues to raise with you to extreme heights, it's just, yeah, the idea of a sphere just goes right out the window.
I agree.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, I mean, it's something to consider, but like I said, if you're right, Jaron, if you don't have anything really to reference it to, then it would be kind of difficult to tell. And we also know that there is no curve. So we're never going to see any curve or anything like that. But if we can get decent landmarks, we could say, well, it should be going, here, but it's not, or whatever. And, again, that is a perspective that may, trigger somebody and go, oh, wow, that's right. I never thought about that. So it's just, like I said, another perspective to bring in that, could be the straw that broke the camel's back for somebody.
And you just made me think that, okay, so our eyesight is the radius of a circle. So if you're able to see left to right 50 miles, and I again wish I was smarter, I need to work that out mathematically and figure out if it's even possible that you would be able. That's the problem, is that we stand at the beach and they say we can see 3 miles until the horizon goes over the edge there. That's ridiculous, because you can look left to right and see umpteen miles. So how can I be the center of a radius of a circle? How can I be the center of a circle, which is my eyesight, and then that means that my radius line needs to maintain the same amount. That would mean I can only see 3 miles to the, what I'm saying? Am I making sense there? I mean, I know you can see. Yeah, okay. I'm just saying that I think that I think there is some proof in that. I don't know how you would figure that out mathematically, as far as if my radius is only, say 10 miles, well, how far can you see left to right? Because when we see 50 miles left to right, doesn't that tell us that the formula for, what we see in front of us or where the horizon would be is completely wrong?
Okay.
No, I was asking a question.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about it, but yeah, that makes sense. Well, I guess what I'm saying is for example, when we go to Hawaii, and I'm on Maui and I'm looking across to Lanai, okay? Lanai would be like, I don't know, 30 or 40 miles, and I'm not sure, I got to pull these numbers from somewhere, from one end of the island to the other, okay? And I can see the entire island because we're only a few miles, across from Maui. So when you think about what the curvature should be, on something like that, it should be very noticeable, right? There should be somewhat of a hump there.
See, then we ask the question, though, how would you follow that line? How would that line continue? It's the same thing we talk about when we're talking about you're up in a plane and you think you see the curvature.
Agreed.
Line, right, okay. That's what I'm saying.
It would be, technically on a ball, it would be hidden behind the visual horizon, and then it would sort of like the mountainous area or the base of it should appear to do like a frown. It's kind of hard to describe or even imagine what it would look like, because, I mean, obviously we've never seen such a thing because the Earth isn't a sphere.
Right, but my point, Jaron, is on this is like, obviously there's not going to be any curve. However, if we can see like the entire island and we know that there should be, and we can calculate what the curve should be across that island, and yet we can see perfectly from left to right all the way across that island with nothing falling away or anything like that, that's just another thing, that you can, kind of put in your preponderance of evidence.
Yeah, I take it back. I do think there is a ton of benefit in that. I would love to know, what do you think the furthest distance anybody has ever seen left to right would be? I wonder, remember that guy who did the video from, it's kind of like the corner of the world, I think it's called. Is it in New Zealand, or is it, there was a guy who was down there. I can't remember his name. He has a YouTube channel, but he's down there looking at that huge, it's almost like they call it the corner of the world because you almost have a 280-degree view of the ocean.
Oh, Kofo?
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, Kofo 72. Yeah.
So, I wonder how far you can see. I'm just wondering what that total distance would be, because I do see what you're saying, that, yeah, you should be able to figure out what the curve would be. And since it's clearly not there, maybe the proof is in the absence of evidence there.
In the absence of it, exactly. And that could be the perspective that somebody would go, whoa, right? And that's all I'm saying,
Yeah, imagine if you could see, and I don't know, let's just put out a crazy number. Imagine if you could see 300 miles. Then you're talking, that if you wouldn't be able to see. We know
from on top of a mountain, you might be able, if it's a clear day, you might be able to get that sort of a breadth of, side-to-side vision at a great distance, but 50 miles is doable from a fairly low elevation.
Well, 300 miles is a 10-mile drop. So
right.
Then you're talking about something that's not a 1 to 2 250 ratio. That's a 1 to 30. So
right
now you're talking about something that would be easily seen without even the aid of a camera. You would just be able to tell with your eyes if that drop was there or wasn't. I wonder what the most or where that would take place, because I certainly only know of a beach where maybe 40, 50 miles would be the max I can imagine seeing. But I'm sure you can see more than that.
Yeah, there are some days that you can see easily for over 100 miles, and if you can see, if you can see from one island to the next, and a lot of them are over 100 miles, like from Kauai or Maui to Oahu or something like that, and you can see the whole island, then we're talking about some significant curvature that should be observable. So yeah. It's just a thought.
Oh, great.
So okay, cool. So moving on. So the next thing that I wanted to cover is this week I mirrored this guy's video, John Savage. And John Savage has been doing some really good gyroscope experiments. He's kind of right up there with Rob Durham. And as many people know, we have received a lot of criticism about our little precision gyros, saying, oh no, that they can't possibly be sensitive enough to detect the 15 degrees per hour rotation of the Earth, right? Well, not only have I vehemently disagreed with that, Rob Durham, I'm sure, does too. In fact, he's doing this very same experiment right now. But so what he did, what John did, is he decided to contact the manufacturer, who also said that it was not sensitive enough to measure this slight precession. And it's like, okay, great. He didn't believe it still, so he put it to the test. So here's what he did. He took the entire gyroscope mechanism, and he got a 24-hour clock mechanism, okay? Not a 12-hour one where it goes around twice. It has to go around twice, but literally it takes 24 hours for this to make a single rotation representing 15 degrees per hour. So he straps the gyroscope on the top of the mechanism, and he turns it on, essentially, okay? And he watches it, and of course you can see he's got the compass around it and stuff like that. And not only does the gyroscope detect that very, very slow 15 degree per hour precession, but it does it accurately, which absolutely blew me away. So, and of course you can view this entire video, and of course the detractors come back and say, well, that's ridiculous, because well, first of all, I think a lot of people didn't even understand what was happening in the video, right? They're saying that, oh, well, you have to be, we don't know your coordinates. We don't know, what the precession should be, your latitude or anything like that. And the point is that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is to test the gyroscope mechanism, the gimbals, to find out if it is indeed sensitive enough to detect a 15 degree per hour precession. And the answer to that question is yes, okay? So now we know that these little precision gyros, this is the same one that I have, same one that Rob Durham has, and it's got its factory gimbals. You know, whether you call them cheesy or not, obviously it's good enough to get the job done because it does register that precession. Okay, and now a lot of people have come back and said, well, you've got that power cord on the motor, and you know that's gonna hold things back. So what John has decided to do, and he just, you know, he contacted me last night on this, and so he has now created a little configuration where he was able to remove the counterweight off of there and lighten up the entire structure by 25 grams, and also have the batteries on board, right, and still have it perfectly balanced. So now he has no more cable, right? So now it's 25 grams less in weight than this particular setup that we're looking at right now. And so, and he's going to do it again. And of course, we already know what's not going to happen. But the point is now nobody can say, well, you've got the cord on there that's holding it back. That's why it's not that's why it's not precessing, whatever. So it's going to be completely free. And once again, not only does it detect that incredibly slow 15 degrees per hour movement, but it does it accurately. And that is a globe killer as far as I'm concerned. Now, the detractors, like I said, are still going to come back with a million excuses, whatever. And as they come up, you know, these guys will continue to address them. But, you know, like I said, ultimately, I think what I would like to do is after we get a successful balloon launch, okay, because, you know, I feel very bad and Chris feels bad that, you know, and it wasn't our fault. I mean, we lost the balloon, que sera, we replaced it, and you know, I've even got, you know, some money of my own, quite a bit of money of my own, in replacing a lot of this stuff. But I want to get a successful balloon launch and give everybody kind of what they donated for. And then after that point, I'm thinking it'd be really cool if we crowdfunded and we actually got a hold of one of these openly admitted to be able to detect the curvature of the Earth ring laser gyros that they use, you know, with the ADIRO system, and take it away from the ADIRO system and say, okay, guys, here it is. We've got the ring laser gyro, which is acknowledged mainstream, that will do this, that will be able to measure the alleged rotation of the Earth. And of course, we know that it's not going to show any. And then after we do that test, then we can take that very same gyro up independent of an ADIRO unit in an airplane, fly straight and level, and not see any precession there either. Okay, but the great thing about this video, like I said, is that not only does it show that this gyro, this little $250 precision gyro that we have, is capable of detecting that precession, but it does it accurately, which I think is freaking awesome.
Well, and you know, the whole thing is one of the tenets or foundational premises of the whole spherical spinning Earth is, I guess, what wasn't it, Foucault, who did his gyroscopic test with a ultra non-precision generic ass gyroscope, which, you know, globe heads hang their hats on as this proof of axial rotation. And the fact that modern super precision gyros are not detecting this, you know, I guess you call it apparent drift or precession due to axial rotation, it just simply doesn't exist.
Right, exactly. But you know, we've got to address the detractors, you know, and you know their points may or may not be valid. I mean, yes, obviously, if the gimbal is binding, you know, to such a degree, then it's going to be pretty much make the gyroscope ineffective. The question is now just a matter of sensitivity. If the gimbal is binding so much that it would actually stop it from detecting such a slow precession, and you know, I've never believed that that was the case, especially if Foucault allegedly did it 170 plus. the big this guy basically took a camera, and his first try was I think it almost looks like he turned a chair up, put it on a chair. Yeah, he did. He put it on.
And the whole thing is one of the tenets or foundational premises of the whole spherical spinning Earth is, I guess, what wasn't it Foucault who did his gyroscopic test with a ultra non-precision generic ass gyroscope, which globe heads hang their hats on as this proof of axial rotation. And the fact that modern super precision gyros are not detecting this, I guess you call it apparent drift or precession due to axial rotation, it just simply doesn't exist.
Right, exactly. But we've got to address the detractors, and their points may or may not be valid. I mean, yes, obviously, if the gimbal is binding, to such a degree, then it's going to be pretty much make the gyroscope ineffective. The question is now just a matter of sensitivity. If the gimbal is binding so much that it would actually stop it from detecting such a slow precession, and I've never believed that was the case, especially if Foucault allegedly did it 170 plus years ago with his cheesy, gyro that is now missing, lo and behold, because otherwise they'd be able to just simply replicate Foucault's experiment, right? But, conveniently, like the NASA Apollo tapes, they just lost it, don't know where it is, whatever.
And the same thing goes with others like the Cavendish experiment, which is extremely questionable.
Yeah, to say the least, and has never been successfully replicated from what I found. In fact, when you look into it, a lot of these professors are very frustrated because they can't get it to work.
No shit, Sherlock. So you mean to tell me that mass doesn't attract mass? Really?
Yeah, the whole gravity notion. So yeah, so I was so impressed with this. Needless to say, I did mirror it on our channel. But John Savage is out there doing some really good work. He's got 165 subs, but he's one of those hands-on kind of guys like Chris and like Rob Durham that are out there actually doing these experiments and doing them honestly. And showing their results, and then listening to the criticism. And like I said, the big criticism was this wire right here. So he, like I said, he messaged me last night and said, I've got it all set, about ready to do the new experiments now with the battery pack on it and no wire. So then what's the next excuse going to be? Well, I guess we'll wait and see, right?
Gravity.
Yep. So, okay, so next up, and this is John Savage's page, by the way. So, and it is in the show links for everybody. Okay, so now we're going to get kind of one of the reasons that Chris Van Maitre is here. And there is a guy, Good Times for All, who did some interesting experiments with kind of what I was wanting somebody to do. It wasn't exactly the same, but I've always maintained that, if we really were on a spinning ball and there was stars around us, I don't think the stars would appear the way that they do. And I've kind of called on people to kind of test that. And so following BMSLB69, I hope I got that right, suggestions, this guy basically took a camera, and his first try was the dots on the ceiling representing the stars. And what was interesting about this is the results that he got back is that when the camera was on the chair and he was spinning the chair around a single axis point and photographing the stars, the result that he got looked something like this. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, that's crazy. You see all these little kind of distorted squiggly lines, but what that is I think it was the chair binding, or maybe where he was hitting it and it was kind of causing it to jiggle around a little bit. But the main feature about this that you will notice is that the trail lines are crossing over each other. And this is exactly how I would envision it if I were, because if he's got the camera on the chair, right, and the camera's mounted at like, I don't know, 45-degree angle, something like that, and it's going around it, kind of like us being on the side of a ball and then looking up towards Polaris and looking at the stars around it and photographing it. Well, it seems logical to me that if you're going around it and you have that same perspective, that those star trail lines are going to cross over each other, right? At least that's the way it seems to me. And admittedly, like I said, I suck at spatial acuity type things, but this really did seem to register to me. So not only did he do this experiment, but then he switched it around and left the camera stationary and then rotated the stars around in a circle. And when he did that, what he got was perfect star trails. They didn't cross over each other. They are exactly like what we see when people do these time-lapse photographs. And okay, so here's like his stars up on the ceiling, and then let me get to the point where he actually shows what he yielded back.
The problem here, if he's spinning a chair, that's a planar spin. That's not a ball spin. We actually have to go through a upside down period of time when we spin on the ball. What he's showing is never.
His camera would like represent from the North Pole pretty much exclusively.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes, I understand that. But I think what he's doing here, and the point of all this is that when you rotate the chair, or not necessarily the chair, and I think on the second one he put it up on some sort of a like a Lazy Susan type table, you know. But so when he did that, he got the lines that were crossing over each other, and that makes perfect sense to me because you're looking, your perspective from the camera is you're looking at kind of a cocked angle up towards the stars, right? Because you're on the side of a ball, versus where if he took that same position of the camera and simply rotated the stars, then we get lines not crossing over. And so this is why I brought it to you guys, because I thought it was fascinating. And Chris even kind of made an experiment that expanded on this, but I want to know what you guys thought about this first of all.
It makes perfect sense, and yeah, it's a good demonstration to show that it certainly appears as if it's the starlight that is spinning as opposed to the Earth itself. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and Jaron, I know that you kind of have a little bit of reservations. I can kind of hear you thinking about it right now.
Well, I have a problem with star trails just because we don't see a complete turn. Number one, we see about a third of a turn, and the computer's programs fix the rest. And it's a ball, so you have to. Any kind of person spinning a chair or anything like that, to me, is not representative of what we are doing on the Earth, because you have to be upside down in 12 hours. That's the way that the Earth works. No matter where you're at, you're upside down 12 hours later. So, well, I mean, I guess not necessarily.
Not really. No, that's not true at all.
Well, I'm thinking of the equator.
Right. So if he were to like extend some sort of extremity, like a stick out from the side of the chair and then plant a camera on that would be more representative of like the United States or the equator. Whereas if you've got the camera sort of mounted upon, parallel with the axis, that's more representative of strictly like the North Pole.
Yeah. And here's his setup. And it looks like, like I said, it looks like some sort of a lazy.
That is a wheelchair laid on its side, and then what he did was he put books underneath the wheel of the wheelchair to make it perfectly level. So he leveled that up so when his camera goes all the way around, it's perfectly level at any spot that he's turning it.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So then you're saying when he gets perfect circles that don't cross each other when?
That's when the stars itself, when he turns the stars on the ceiling with the camera steady, he gets the perfect star trails.
Whatever, it doesn't really matter. You're looking up at stars. Whether you're upside down looking at it. Remember, there's no up or down in space, right?
No, what I'm saying is that how is he able to keep the camera focused on the North Star? We don't get star trails everywhere. They only happen at the North Star. So I'm saying, how did he turn the whatever he's on and keep the camera pointed at that point? Wouldn't it? I guess I'm just not grasping it because I can't picture what chair how you put a camera on a chair aimed at a certain part of your ceiling, and then when you spin the chair, the camera unless you're talking like John said, if you're at the North Pole looking straight up. Is that basically what we're talking about?
Well, that would be. No, I think what he's trying to emulate here is standing on the side. You've got a globe there. Grab it, right?
I haven't holding.
Okay, so stick your finger.
I burned mine. I tortured it first, and then I burned it. No,
right. So if you stick your finger on a point in North America, okay, and then start spinning the globe around, and that point, it would be at an angle kind of towards the North Pole, looking up to where Polaris might be. And if you spin it around, you're not really going upside down. You're just going around in a circle, kind of staring at one point, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
all right, so
let me see that picture right there because I can't really tell what he's got there. That apparatus, I know he called it a Lazy Susan, but what do we?
I don't know what it is. I can't really tell. Chris, do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, I think what that is a wheelchair laid on its side, and then what he did was he put books underneath the wheel of the wheelchair to make it perfectly level. So he leveled that up so when his camera goes all the way around, it's perfectly level at any spot that he's turning.
I thought that comes from because that's okay. I see what you're saying. So then you're saying when he
being a positive, he
gets perfect circles that don't don't cross each other. When?
That's when the stars itself. When he turns the stars on the ceiling with the camera steady, he gets the perfect star trails. Now, when he puts the stars projected up on his ceiling and he turns the camera, then the stars cross over each other.
Got you. Okay, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm thinking that it does kind of seem like it's only pointed 90 degrees. The camera is pointed right.
He does it at several different angles. I will say that.
And does it change Does it change? Because that's what I would think would happen is that you'd get the star circles that would change based on your angle. Does that happen?
Well, I think that the scale is not quite right for that to happen because remember, that was one of the things that I said too, that it's peculiar to me that people photographing star trails, looking at the North Pole, it seems to me that the further south latitude they would get, the more elongated those star trails would be.
Right.
But that doesn't seem to happen.
No, it absolutely does not. Well, the reason that they
I've always thought that you were right when you said that I couldn't and I couldn't grasp it, but you're right. It doesn't seem like what we do see would happen if you were on a ball spinning as we're told we are. But this here, I think he's on the right track, but it just seems to me that camera's pointed straight up at 90 degrees, which would, I think, would give you star trails.
Clearly shows that,
because technically north from the equator should be like at an angle towards the center slightly, as opposed to perfectly 90 degrees.
Correct.
Right.
Where I'm at, I'm not going to be looking. I'm going to be looking, like 37 degrees. And so you said you did move the camera in and out from that bicycle tire circle?
But in fact, it's
he did. He moved it in several different positions. Go ahead, Chris.
That's something that just really hit me as far
if you get to thinking about this, what they tell us is all these stars, you got one star that is supposedly 6,000 light years away. You have another one that's only 300 light years away. If you get to thinking about this, the star trails actually should cross over if we're on a spinning ball because they're all at different distances and different perspectives as you're spinning through the star field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did the star trails that we shoot, how are they always absolutely perfect and spread apart throughout a 2.5 hour period?
Because they move above your head.
Exactly. They circle over our heads. We don't circle in a star field. If we did, then I totally believe that you should have star trails that cross over.
Yeah, you would have completely different star trails for someone in New York versus somebody in Florida versus somebody in Cuba. They should all
Exactly.
be very elongated based on your distance from the North Pole.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's
stellar parallax is claimed to be measured by science, but we should see over relatively short periods of time, we should see major stellar parallax because as we're all very very familiar, the nearest visible star, allegedly according to the heliocentric model, the nearest visible star from the ground is about 4 light years. And the most distant visible star from the ground is allegedly, I think, 16,000 light years, and pretty much everything in between. And as we fly through space with the galaxy and the sun and all of at these just mind-boggling speeds, over time we should definitely see relative changes in the stars, and we throughout history don't. So yeah.
yeah.
No doubt.
So yeah, I mean, to me, this makes perfect sense. Again, that if the stars are moving above us, then what we're photographing, what people are photographing, would be absolutely perfect star trails. And that is, and granted, I agree with you, Jen. We're not seeing a full rotation, but we are seeing enough of a rotation where we can see that the distances are remaining equidistant across the star trails that we are picking up. And a lot of people are getting up to 10 hours or so of star trails.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is enough to make a pretty solid case, honestly, because it doesn't take long when he's rotating the chair before you start picking up on the star trails crossing over each other. So yeah, I thought this was an outstanding experiment, and the guy's name is Good Times for All, GUDTIMS. He doesn't have the E in there. TIMS for all. And of course, it's a work in progress, but the concept I think is really sound, and
Really
this is something that anybody can do.